You can draw this in Procreate. In this super easy drawing tutorial for Procreate, I am going to guide you through all of the steps to create this lovely lake scene. You don't need any experience with drawing or with the app Procreate because I will take you by the hand through the entire process. What you need is a canvas of 2,300 pixels by 3,000 pixels, and I have left a link to the color palette down in the description. So if you're ready, let's get started. All right, we are going to start by creating a shape for the lake, for the water. And we are going to do that with the selection tool. That's the S-shaped ribbon here at the top. You can set it to rectangle and then turn on color fill over here. Let's zoom out a little bit by pinching. And then for the color, we can just use this one, for example. Second color in the first row. And then we'll start here in the lower left corner and move up like this and go for, well, not halfway, a little bit lower, like somewhere over here, I think. And then you can let go and then it automatically fills. Then you can tap the S-shaped ribbon again to get out of there. And now we are going to make a new layer in the layer menu. We'll tap the plus and then tap and hold that layer and drag it underneath the shape that we have just created. And now on this layer, we are going to create a gradient. Let's go to the colors and drop this color in first color in the first row. Let's drag it onto the canvas. And then for our brush, let's go to the basics and then use the Forester brush. Let's make the canvas a little bit, well, not bigger, but let's zoom in a little bit. And then for the color, we'll go for the second one. We are going to create a gradient with these 5 colors. Let's set the opacity of the brush to 100%. Let's set the size to 10%. And then let's go over here and create a horizontal band like this. Then we'll go to the next color, the third one. And we'll go over this area. Then we'll move on to the fourth color. Create a line like this. We go even lower. And then we'll go to the fifth color. And then color this area in like this. Then we'll go to the magic wand here at the top, then to Gaussian blur, and then slide to the right on your screen with your pen to create a smooth gradient. I'll go for like 36%, and now you can tap the magic wand again to get out of there. Then we'll make another layer on top of this. We'll tap the plus, and now we are going to create some mountains. And for the brush, I'd like to use the Ringarpoona brush. And for the color, we'll use this one. That's the third color in the second row. And the opacity of this brush should be at 100% and the size is at 7. And I will start about here. We'll go up like this and then we'll go down, make a jagged shape, go up a little bit again. You don't have to do this in one go. And I want to go down in the center. So we'll go down like this. And then here we'll go up again. See an extra little line. It doesn't matter. Just try to find the right shape. Go up. Or something like this. So now we have a closed shape from left to right. And so you can drag in the color at the bottom to fill everything. And at this point, you can go in here. You can tidy things up. Here I have some gaps. You can also tap and hold the eraser to make it switch to that Ringarpoona brush. And then you can also carve some parts. Here I want to go a little bit lower. You can also make more like pointy parts, make it more jagged. So you can tidy parts up. Add some more, like I said, some jagged parts. And maybe we can make this a little bit lower. Just make sure that you don't have any like floating parts or any gaps. Yeah, I think something like this will work. Then we'll make another layer underneath this. So we'll go here, and we'll tap the plus, and then we will pick this color. That's the first color in the second row. And I'd like to make some more mountains in the background. Let's start here so we can create a closed shape. And then we'll make some shapes like this, go all the way to the right, and then drag in the color. And then behind this, we can create a sun. So let's tap this layer first, then tap the plus, then pick the sixth color in the first row, and then we will need a different brush. We'll go for the Jaegar since it doesn't have like size set to pressure. With the Ringarpoona, if you press harder, you will get a thicker line. We want a monoline brush because that way you can get a smooth circle. The opacity is at 100%. The size is at 15, but doesn't really matter. What matters is the size of the circle. So let's draw a circle like this behind our mountains. And if you hold your pen on the screen, it'll switch to a quick shape, to a oval or a circle. And if you tap your finger on the screen, it'll turn into a perfectly round circle. And then you can let go. You can also tap circle here at the top to move it around. I want it to be nicely in the center behind these mountains over here, and then we can drag in the color. Then let's work on the mountains a bit. Let's go to this layer, and then let's tap the plus to create a layer on top, and then set the new layer to clipping mask. That way, whatever we draw here, it'll only show up on those mountains. And then let's switch to the fourth color in the second row. And for the brush, we'll go back to the Ringarpoona. And now we are going to add some shapes here. Let's start here and then go to the top and then create a zigzaggy shape. And then you can close it and then you can drag in the color. I'm just noticing that it might be a little bit hard to see these shapes on camera. So just for now, I'm going to add a different color here. We can just pick this third one and drag it on here. And we'll just create the shapes with this color. And then later we can switch just so you can properly see these shapes. Now for all of these, start on like the left side, in this case, of the mountain. The light is hitting here, so the left side will be lit, and we can just create some zigzaggy patterns. And then close the shape and drag in the color. Then we can add a little bit over here. And on this left side, close the shape, drag in the color, and then also over here. And we can also create some gaps. And then we can drag in the color. And then on the other side, we'll do the same, but this time we'll start on the right sides because these are on the opposite side of our sun. Maybe a little bit over here. have to create the exact same shapes as I'm creating. Just make sure that it's nice and jagged. Drag in the color, maybe a little bit over here. And on this little peak. And just like we did before, you can switch to the eraser and you can make parts a little bit more pointy, tidy parts up. Just until you have something that you are pleased with. And sometimes you can see some little gaps it hasn't filled properly. You can fix those. You just don't want the shapes to be too rounded. And on the other side. Just tidying up. So now you can properly see these shapes. Now let's just fill them with that color that I intended to use, the fourth color in the second row. We can go to the layer, you can tap it and then use alpha lock. And then you can tap it again and use fill layer. And then I do like to add a little bit of that other color for some lighting effects. So let's go to the Forester brush and then back to that third color in the first row. And let's lower the opacity of the brush to like 70%. Make the brush a little bit bigger, 13%. And then let's go over these shapes. And this way you can add a little bit of a gradient. Like the sun is hitting those slopes. And we can even go a little bit lighter with that fourth color in the first row. And light it up even more. That looks lovely. I hope you are enjoying creating your own sunset lake illustration. If you're starting to get like a Procreate drawing and painting addiction, then I can help you out at my Patreon page, because there we have more than 250 Procreate drawing and painting tutorials. So that should definitely soothe that drawing urge. But of course, you will get your skills to the next level at the same time. So I will just leave a link for you down in the description in case you want to check that out. But now let's continue with our sunset lake. And we can also go to the main layer of the mountain, tap that, turn on alpha lock so we won't go outside of the shape. Let's go back to that third color and then add a little bit of glow right here in the center. Then let's go to this layer over here. Here as well, tap the plus, set that new layer to clipping mask so we won't go outside of the shape. Then go to the Ringarpoona brush and pick the second color in the second row. And then let's go in here and create a bit of a jagged shape here as well. Just along the top, very simple. Loop around to close the shape and then drag in the color. That looks nice. All right, then for a bit of like an extra edge or line of trees, we'll go here. Tap the plus, and then for the color, pick this one, fifth color in the second row, and let's just go along the edge, make some wobbly lines. This is like a little forest. Go all the way to the right, and then drag in the color. It's just a small little touch. Next, we are going to create a reflection on the water. Now to do that, we are going to slide down with 3 fingers and then use copy all, then slide down again and use paste. Now right here at the top, well, almost at the top, we have this merged version of our drawing. Let's drag it on top of our water layer. Then we'll set this to clipping mask. And then we'll go to the move and transform tool and use flip vertical. Then go to snapping, turn on magnetics, so we won't be able to easily go from side to side. Let's zoom out a little bit. And then drag this down to, let's say about here. And then tap the arrow again. Then let's blur this. Let's go to the magic wand, then to Gaussian blur, slide to the right to, well, let's say 6%. And then tap the magic wand again. I actually want to blur the sun even more, so we can go to the magic wand, to Gaussian blur, then tap this little downward arrow, set it to pencil, and then for the brush, you can use the Forester brush. And now let's go over that area of the sun like this. And then with your finger, you can move around to increase or decrease the blur. This looks weird, but this looks kind of nice. I'll go for 50%. And then tap the magic wand again. And then let's create more shapes. Let's tap the plus, and then for our color, pick this one. That is the 6th color in the 2nd row. And for the brush, we'll use the Ringarpoona. And now we are going to create 2 like little islands on each side. So let's zoom in a little bit. Let's start about here. Create a bit of a wobbly shape to the right and upward a little bit. And then the underside should be pretty much flat. So something like this. Make sure that the shape is closed and then drag in the color. And then let's make another one on this side. You can go up high like this. They don't have to be exactly the same, of course. And then drag in the color. And to make this look like it has trees on it, we'll go to the Art with Flow Treasure Chest Brush Pack. It's totally free. If you don't already have it, go to freefromflow.com and then use the Pine Trees brush. And for this brush, I have the opacity set to 100%, size at 2%. And now we can go in here and go over the top and add that tree line here as well. It's a small touch, but it sure looks nice. Here I've messed up a little bit. You can always go to the eraser, tidy it up a bit. And then for this, we also need a reflection. So we'll duplicate this layer, slide to the left, tap duplicate, then go to this bottom one, tap it and use clipping mask. Let's zoom out a bit, go to the move and transform tool and use flip vertical, and then move it downward like this. Then let's go to freeform and then use that middle handle and flatten it just a little bit like this. And now we can go to the magic wand again, go to Gaussian blur, slide to the right just a little bit. Let's go for like 4%. And let's also lower the opacity a little bit. Let's go to a layer, tap the N, slide to the left to, well, let's say 64%, somewhere around that number. I think that looks nice. Next, we are going to create some trees in the foreground. Let's make a layer on top of all the others. Let's tap the plus. And then for the brush, we'll go to that treasure chest brush pack again and use the pine tree long brush. We'll stick to this color. The opacity of the brush should be at 100%. We don't want any see-through trees. And the size is at 37%. And I will just go in here, and you can tap multiple times to create some bigger trees, and we'll go down in the center and then up again as we move to the right. To create a nice sort of frame here. Then let's go to the layer menu, tap that layer, turn on alpha lock, and then we can go back to those basics brushes, use the Ringarpoona brush again, and let's add a few little highlights to our trees. Let's go and pick this color, 6th color in the first row, and we can go in here, and we can just go along the edges, make some jagged motions for some subtle highlights. Makes them nicely stand out. Also some over here. You don't have to do this on all of the trees. Like this. Next, I'd like to add a few wispy clouds to our sky. Let's go to our sky layer over here, tap the plus, and then for the color, pick this one, 4th color in the first row. And for the clouds, you can either use the Ringarpoona brush, or what you could also do is use the selection tool and set it to freehand and also set it to color fill. And now you can simply use the selection tool to create some very wispy clouds. Close the selection and then make some over here. Nice and pointy. And over here. Something like this. Then you can tap the selection tool again, and now let's lower the opacity of this layer. Let's tap the N, slide to the left, and we can go for something around 30%. And then let's tap the plus, and let's make a light rays layer. Let's pick a different color. Let's go for this one, 6th color in the first row. And again, we can use the selection tool. We'll go to the selection tool and then start in the center and create light rays like this by every time starting in the center and then moving outward and then back again. And you can vary the thickness. Make some a little bit wider. And some a little bit thinner. And then turn off the selection by tapping the S shape ribbon. And then go to the layer menu, tap the N, and lower the opacity to, well, let's say like 7%. And then we can tap this layer and add a layer mask by tapping mask. Then for the brush, go to the Forester brush, and for the color, I double tap here to select black. And you can go along the edges to fade the rays a little bit over there. Something like this. Then let's make another layer. Let's tap the plus and still use that 6th color and also the Forester brush. And now we can go over this area a little bit to brighten that just a bit. Then let's add some lines on the water. Let's go to, let's go to this layer. Let's tap the plus. And now what you can do with this layer is tap it and then turn on Drawing Assist. What that does is that will make your lines follow a grid with horizontal and vertical lines. So now let's just pick this brush as an example. Now you can only make horizontal and vertical strokes. So let's undo this. Let's pick a different brush. Let's go to the inks and use the Sheerwater brush. Now the opacity of this brush is at 100%, size at 30. Now let's just go in here, use a little pressure, and create these lines. And it's great that you don't have to worry about creating horizontal lines. Using Drawing Assist already make sure that all your lines are horizontal. So just a bunch of these, just like this. Now what you can do is tap the layer, turn off Drawing Assist, tap it again and use Alpha Lock. And now if you go back to that, to those basics brushes and use the Forester brush, you can pick some colors that are a little bit darker, like the 5th color here, and then go over these lines and push some of them back a little bit, make them a little bit more subtle. You can also pick that 4th color in the 1st row just to make them blend a little bit. Then finally, I'd like to add a final lighting effect. We can tap the plus here and then tap the N and set the layer blending mode of this layer to add. Add is a great layer blending mode if you want to add light. And we'll stick to this color and our Forester brush. And we can gently go over this area just to add a little bit more light. It's subtle, but if you turn it on and off, you can see what it does. And now we can call our landscape finished. I hope you had fun, and I hope to see you next time for the next tutorial.